We are back, Dane.
Yes, my brother, we are back. We're back, still doing it, back like we never left. What are you saying?
MYB, the Mind Your Business podcast. Don't know. We've got you know what? I laugh bare times, because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
A lot of things, man. I think I was saying to you earlier, I think we should call this episode How the World Dumps on Black People and the African Diaspora.
Yeah. I
mean,
mean,
we
can
call
call
it the title.
So it sounds all right, man. We can call it this episode. We could call it this era that we're living in. We can call it this decade because the homicidal obsession with our people continues to this day. And we are doing the work and the diligence so that the people don't have to. And making sure people mind their business and make sure they can take care of themselves. Trying to give you the tools to navigate the haters and the emulators.
See it there. So we got a long list, big menu today to discuss, of things to discuss. The first thing, really, I just wanted to give a big shout out to Ash Sarkar from Novara Media.
Yeah.
Kind of eloquently articulated my point about the backlash of right wing since the over leveraging of liberalism and all its eccentric. I don't want to upset anybody.
Well, a number of things, but no, I mean, yeah, I think I've worked with Ash before. Ash is she's a great she's a great ideologue. She's a great speaker and a cool thinker. At time of recording, I'm kidding. Ash, she's cool, but yeah, Ash is a journalist and a podcaster who very clearly has spent a lot of time, because she has very egalitarian and left-wing views, around people who profess to have the same kind of ideology and have a similar political disposition. But obviously, she's starting to become a bit more disillusioned, and who can blame her?
Well, I think it's what she says about, nobody grabbing the left and I'm paraphrasing here, nobody grabbing the left as like a whole community and saying like, get a grip.
Yeah.
Because this whole over leveraging is the reason why we're having this like right wing resurgence in massive ways, to which we'll get into. So that was just something I just wanted to touch on quickly. But today's menu consists of items like pharmaceutical factories in India manufacturing opioid drugs, which are finding themselves into West Africa and doing no end of harm. I think it was ITV done a expose on the factory in this specific case. And then we go on to talking about the cost price of melanin. Interesting facts.
Facts that people need to know.
Trust
I feel
me.
like probably one of the most important facts that people need to know.
This is why you black people need to know that you're kind of valuable still, because your melanin is worth more than gold. Which I didn't know until this week.
No, I'm telling you.
Man is a walking 42 million pound bad man out here, everybody. Are you mad?
Well, there you go.
Anyway, moving on. The M23 fighters entering Bukavu, which is a city in Congo.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that as well.
Pfizer vaccine crisis in Nigeria. And then we move on to the ever beautiful Kemi Badenoch.
I will withhold comment at this time.
Now, whatever. I mean, yeah, I got so much to say about that. Like, so much things are coming to my head when I think about that. You get me? Or I should say.
I look forward to hearing you break that down, Index.
I am looking forward to breaking it down for you, Dane, and the rest of the people. You get me?
I can't wait to hear that, for real.
Conversations between Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan. Trevor Noah and his questioning of whether integration was the right move or not when it comes to the American civil rights movement and what they were all fighting for. That's interesting, bro.
It's very interesting, and to get the perspective from somebody whose very existence was a crime in apartheid South Africa. I want to definitely get into that.
See it there. The idea of the European Union having its own reserve currency and kind of separating from the US. Interesting stuff. Senegal starting to refine its own oil, which is a good thing. We get into that. Nigerian comedian by the name of Trinity Guy. This is Nigerian women while upholding his white girlfriend. Some interesting details around that. And I also I seen something like very, something that disturbed me. So basically a woman who, I'm not going to mention names and stuff because it might be mightily embarrassing, but she did put it on social media, but she had this lip attachment. It was like a stick on lip. And she went for Valentine's Day and was kissing her boyfriend or her date at the time, and the lip was coming off, and the guy was like, "Something's wrong with your lip." When she went in the bathroom, the lip that she attached, it's like some silicone looking thing.
Oh goodness me!
So I really wanted to just touch base on that because that is just a madness.
That
yeah,
is a madness.
Stormzy's response after the backlash with his McDonald's deal. Then we go into major brands, some criticism around major brands like JD and Foot Asylum and other brands such, using the same old influencers, the same old style, same old formats. I know you've got something to say about that, bro.
Definitely.
You get me? And then speaking about influencers, saw a disturbing video with a woman on a particular YouTube show lambasting men that don't earn anywhere near or 10 grand a month to be precise, and basically saying that any man that doesn't earn that is broke, and anyone triggered by her statement saying that anyone earning less than 10 grand a month is not worth her time. Interesting conversation, and some of the conversations that happened underneath, like the comments that I was seeing, it's a bit mad still. So yeah, and then I just wanted to shout out Skepta, man, because he revealed a painting apparently that he's been working on for the last 5 years, and Mr. Renaissance man, you get me? He's doing some things, and then just a quick shout, and then we can cover this now really because it's an open and shut case. But Apple removing advanced data protection tool at the United Kingdom's government's request. So I just want to say people that are using the Apple, what's that addition to when you have your stuff in the cloud?
Oh yeah,
iCloud.
Yeah,
your stuff is no longer end-to-end encrypted. So just be careful, people, because if you got shit out there, and it's a madness, and yeah.
I mean, I feel like anytime you put something on the cloud, the idea that it will be 100% safe and nobody can access it is actually quite a fantasy. And that's not me critiquing anybody, but in the same way that when people put nudes and stuff on the cloud, the idea that no one will ever see that when you're thinking about a whole device, or I suppose information technology concept of a foreign like hard drive that's run by a bunch of nerds, and you're putting pictures of yourself naked on there to people that have seldom, if no, contact with women. It's a temptation.
Right. So, first subjects on the menu. Pharmaceutical factory in India manufacturing opioid drugs and shipping them directly into West Africa. Found a report, it found me actually, a report about an expose done by ITV, I believe it was. And they covered it quite extensively, and they showed the inner workings of this opioid factory, and the guy running it talking about exactly how, the shipping routes, talking about how the Ghanaian government is very strict on the air traffic, so they use ships to smuggle these drugs into the country. These drugs they look like sweets the way that they've been packaged, and it's causing like a massive problem now.
An opioid crisis. Yeah. It's mad. It's mad that even after all of the damage that has taken place as a result of America's opioid crisis, that people are still distributing these things for recreational use. And it's a mad thing now because like when it comes to opioids, where a lot of the time drugs are definitely a politicized and a lot of the time a racially politicized issue, like opioids kind of turned that whole narrative on its head. Before, people used to be able to say, it's black people and be black people smoking crack and black people selling crack, even though crack was brought into the United States by the CIA. But people seem to forget about that. But you have the Jewish Sackler family who run run their opioid empire, who had had to do one of the biggest payouts in history in America, but have essentially created an opioid and thus a heroin crisis in America. And very clearly, people in India have looked at that and been like, us too, but have refined their methods, whereby the Sackler family was trying to provide this pain relief to Americans, and obviously were very corrupt and very ignorant of the damage that their drug was doing. People are more than aware of the dangers of opioids, but they've gone, well, if you do it in Africa, no one's going to pay attention, are they? Who cares? Get away with it. They've got stringent laws. We'll just bring it in by the sea. So, yeah, it's mad that, and given the potential profit margins that can be offered by distributing a legal drug, but a drug that is as powerful as heroin, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in government that are prepared to look the other way.
You see, and I think one of my main concerns is we've got a lot of repatriation happening right now, especially to Ghana, and people are investing a lot of money in land and building houses and stuff. I know quite a few people doing that as we speak, with a view of kind of uplifting the area and just going back to Africa and doing good things. But to move and, move into a crisis like this is,
So
something that I feel like we need to be aware of.
I mean, the repatriation hasn't even begun that much in earnest, and it's only been like maybe the last half decade that we're seeing, not just ecotourism taking place in West Africa, for example, but also like, people who in earnest are going to invest in businesses, whether it's in like housing and investing in infrastructure and beginning to build lives for themselves. And right away, foreign people have decided that they're going to flood very respective countries with drugs. Because if you do it in Africa, it's okay. Because they definitely would not be trying to do that in the UK. Because they know that what would happen then. We couldn't try to do that in America because Americans only want people to get mashed up over opioids that white people sell. So I think it's crazy that this is being allowed. And obviously, I think it's one of these things that people don't necessarily know about. I don't think people even consider, among the many other perceived problems on the continent, like things that would obviously go hand in hand with years of colonialism and oppression, like substance abuse.
And this is the thing, it's not even just, I mentioned Ghana because it focused on Ghana quite narrowly, but then the problem is kind of spreading across West Africa,
as it would. Like the opioid crisis is spread. One of the states with one of the highest incidences of opioid use or heroin usage is now Vermont. And Vermont is known for Ben and Jerry's and plenty white people. And now, one of the biggest users of heroin, like the opioid crisis is so bad in America that they started giving members of the fire department like Noxalone, which is kind of like works like an adrenaline shot if people overdose on opioids. And because obviously it disproportionately affects white people now, it's being treated as a health crisis as opposed to just a criminal issue. And I'm just almost certain that the more people that become aware of an opioid crisis in West Africa, the less people are going to care. There's not going to be any aid. There's not going to be any dressing. I doubt there'll be much in the form of sanctions for the Indian companies that are manufacturing and distributing these drugs. So I guess up to us to know. And boy, if you look like robbing drug dealers.
But this is the thing. I mean, things like drug abuse creates crime.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? And, whether you are Ghanaian by heritage or moving over there to do business or whatever, I mean, we've got Dirty December. You know what I mean? Like all of these things are all impacted.
Yeah.
And, these
and they will be impacted. And if and like you said, the addiction can definitely lead to crimes, but also, supply can also lead to crimes if controlled. And the thing being, while the opioids have historically kind of been legal, the potency and the lucrative nature of a controlled substance means we know that people are going to get a hold of that without actually needing it prescribed. So, yeah, it's a real problem. I think
it's a real problem that I feel like our community need to be aware of. So, be aware of it.
Boy, alcohol alone is why indigenous Australians were almost eradicated by colonizers, in the same way that alcohol also to indigenous Americans and Amerindians, like something about firewater did not do something mixed with their bodies very well. And I believe it's like 70% of indigenous Australians, 70% of indigenous Amerindians or like Inuit people in the north, like towards Canada and Alaska. Alcohol's ruined those communities, and opioids can definitely have the power and potency to do even worse. And I feel like, yeah, that's something that needs to be treated with extreme prejudice. If you catch some foreign trappers in these African countries, you have to mash them up, bruv, and teeth their peas. I'm saying it to be like, you know, but in the hood, everyone's happy to be stick up kids in it and to be robbing drug dealers and that. But these men are coming from other countries, like, you know, I'm not condoning violence, but if they're getting bread, then I'd say a little bit of tax from the, you know what I mean, from, you know what I mean.
Yeah, man.
A little area boy tax might work if, you know.
And I think as well, it speaks to the continuous destabilization of a country that now seems to be finding its feet in many ways. You get what I mean?
How convenient. Around, you know, very similar to, as you know, South Africa achieved independence from its apartheid government, then the prevalence of HIV started going up real high around the same time that the World Health Organization was doing experiments with cat leukemia and SIV, which is actually simian immunovirus. And then all of a sudden, this virus that can't replicate itself very well and only affects black people and it affects like 1 in 4 of South Africa's population shows up. Weirdly convenient. So, yeah, you got to make sure that people are on top of that because, yeah, like I said, it just seems to be weirdly coincidental that this potentially destabilizing product is now becoming freely available as we begin the work towards economic independence from the West.
Definitely. So that's to say we are, I mean, as black people, and it goes on to the next conversation actually, which is the cost price of melanin. As black people, you are quite valuable. I didn't know this until this week, but apparently, as of 2024, the cost price of melanin is 500 or was £508 per gram. Gold, significantly cheaper per gram. I think it's about £70 per gram. So melanin, if people don't know, melanin is the thing that is like intrinsically linked into the DNA of black people, which makes us very valuable.
Very valuable.
The average black adult carries around, I can't remember actually, up into the millions.
24 million, I think. You said the body can break down to.
24 million pounds worth of melanin within the average black like adult.
Yeah. It's mind blowing, but it speaks to a maxim that you hear a lot of the time when it comes to talking about perceptions of race, and that is in many, at least biologically and physiologically, people outside of black people know more about us than we know about ourselves, because our pursuit of knowledge of self has been marred. You ever listen to Shits and Gigs?
Yeah, no, actually, no, just low lights. Yeah, I think they're pricks.
Yeah, I listened to it a bit. Not hard, but because obviously when people are like, yeah, you know, this is a podcast now, so I start listening to it, just think, research and be like, what is it about this podcast? But, you know, for me, it just seems like they basically just react to other people's content. So, which is, I mean, I guess it works for them, but they have set the course of African American and Black British relations back a good 10 years with their stupidness. But at the same time, it's like, if you really pay attention to them, they give off a lot of Cooney energy. You know, you talk about LGBT stuff, like, this is this thing that, like, Cooney people doing it is that they'll play up to this whole gay thing because they think that's what makes them more acceptable to white people, innit? Like,
well, I would hazard a guess that their audience isn't necessarily us.
It's not at all. They're not aiming for us at all.
So then
they're from Northampton. They're from Northamptonshire, bro. They're definitely not aiming for us. But what I'm saying is that that it's interesting how, number one, people can just turn to coonery to make a quick buck, and that will always elevate you. But then, to be honest, it doesn't look as acerbic as them, but they're like the British equivalent of Fresh and Fit.
Yeah,
you don't represent us.
Yeah,
but they've gotten away with it because they make especially the light skin brother, they present themselves as palatable to white people as they possibly can,
and that's where the audience comes
from.
Yeah,
we're into we don't mind playing gay innuendos and playing gay chicken. Like, we're like white guys like that. Like, you know, like we don't we watch anime, you know. Like, even over the whole thing that happened with Andrew Schultz, when I heard man saying about Supercell being like, well, if black people say it's good, I don't trust it. I wait for like non-black people to say something's good. Rah, so you've not been paying attention to human life and contemporary culture in the West for the last, as long as you've been alive.
I mean, I'm not excusing what he said, but he's just trying to be funny.
Yeah, but that's the other thing that bothers me, bro. I'm tired of people that who have never stepped on a stage before because they get laughs from people. How can I put this, yeah? People who dance to Macarena don't know any Spanish. People who like K-pop don't speak any Korean. And just because these are people who hear music, but they don't listen to it. In the same way that people that find shits and gigs funny are not comedy fans. And there's a lot of successful comedians. Like when people say my favorite comedians are Michael McIntyre or Ricky Gervais, I know you don't listen. You don't really know what comedy is. You just go to a big show to escape from life because your life is basic. And these brothers say enough basic stuff to make you laugh. In the same way that when people say something like, I'm trying to think of an example. People who listen to Rizzle Cakes, I don't want to hear you talk to me about rap because you don't care, innit? And it's the same thing. Like, but there's certain people that hear things but don't listen to things, innit? And so those guys, what he thinks he's funny, but the Andrew Schultz thing proved you're not funny, innit? Because when you was up against a real comedian who's not that great themselves, you lot was like, oh, fight or flight, and because you're stupid and you're not funny. And there's a lot of these brothers on podcasts that because they crack jokes on podcasts, they think that they're funny. In the same way, there's a lot of comedians, as I said to you before, who think they're funny and they're not funny. And the bottom line is this. People are like, I think I'm funny. And you know what I say to them? I say, suck your ugly cunt mother. Now go on stage. Because comedy's not about being funny. You got to go and be funny no matter what mood you're in. That's why I say to them, not just to see how you're going to react. Once you hear that, you don't feel like being funny no more. But my mum can call me before I go on stage and be like, this is who died. And I still got to go on stage and do a bus joke for 20 minutes or an hour. It's not, there's nothing to do with how funny you are. You are performing an art to make people laugh. You know, when you're surrounded by your friends, that's easy to make people laugh. And you got the context. That's fine. Go and do it in bumfuck nowhere where no one knows who you are. They never heard of your podcast, and see if you can do it then. Because a lot of these dons now think that they're funny because they're funny on their podcast. Funny. It's not the same, bro. It's not the same at all. Because you're talking to an audience who are just idiots and they ain't got the attention span to listen to you for 20 minutes anyway. Try and crack jokes. Because it's like boxing, innit? Everyone can throw a punch. That's not what boxing is, innit? It's what you do when someone's trying to box you in the face. That's it. While you're moving and for 3 minutes. And then do another round of that. Most people ain't got the thing for that. And comedy's the same. It's not when people are laughing and they're in a good mood. When people are cold and they don't know you and it's a Friday and you're in bumfuck nowhere and you don't know the ends, how can you make these people laugh? It's very few people that can do it to a certain level, trust me.
Cost price of melanin.
Yeah. Very, very expensive. And it just shows you, as we say, that like it's an age-old maxim that we say is that when it comes to people's bodies, like these people know about black people more than black people know about black people. Because we are forced to either do our own research or to accept what we're told about people. And you got to understand, like, it was very recently that I realized or was told that even within the medical profession, even people that go to medical school have the internalized belief, for example, that black people feel less pain than normal people. And that is an example of scientific racism that has been inserted into the field of medicine in order to justify the atrocities that black people have had to endure at the hands of their oppressors.
And I think moreover as well, when you think about it, like it makes me think how expensive black life is, but then how cheap it is deemed to be. You get what I mean? So we just spoke about the opioid crisis in Ghana, right? And across Africa, when you look at how many people are killed by various means.
Yep. Well, you know, when I used to go to the GP when I was a kid, you know, you go to the doctors and I'd look at all the walls and stuff like that and they'd have all the list of like, you know, the childhood and preventable diseases. And there was always one place where every disease was. And I was always like, man, whooping cough, diphtheria, cholera, dysentery, yellow fever, dengue fever. And then you'd look, typhoid, and they'd be like, and there'd be a globe, and there'd be one continent that's got all of them. And it would be Africa. And before you look at that, and I imagine like a lot of black people, you look at that and be like, why have we got all the diseases, man? What's going on here, bro? But, you know, if all life started in the primordial basin that is Africa, it stands to reason that all of these organisms would have had their origins in Africa. So it's not as deep as this. But at the same time, there are a lot of what we today call preventable diseases. For example, waterborne diseases. And a lot of those are in Africa. But that is not because Africans lack the gumption to create their own infrastructure, like a lot of people will try to assume. It is because the lack of infrastructure in Africa has been actively encouraged and engineered by the people of the Northern Hemisphere. So that's something that people need to understand as well, is that there has been a concerted battle against us to stop us from being able to treat ourselves. So much so that, according to scientists and white people, if you believe in evolution, then you can't really question this theory. One of the reasons why black people have the prevalence, and this is a fact, bro, because I did A-level biology, so I know this is true. Basically, one of the reason why black people get sickle cell anemia is because malaria is caused by a parasite called Plasmodium that eats blood cells, but it cannot digest sickle cell shaped hemoglobin. So even though sickle cell mashes black people up, it's because this parasite stops malaria, because the malaria is obviously endemic in Africa. It stops as many people from being affected by it because it can't digest their cells. And that is a level of evolution that we've had to go to in order for us to navigate the reality that's been created for us.
There you go, people. Some big facts. You know what I mean?
Don't take my word for it though. Look it up though, innit?
Yeah, look it up. But obviously, like, that sounds...
I'm right though, but just look it up.
So, yeah, man, like, for me, just going back onto this whole thing, it's like, it makes me feel like, or think, all these, in particular, when you're looking at the lives lost across Congo over the last... Do all these, but like, what happens to the melanin in these people? You get what I mean? And that might be a conspiracy theory.
Well, anywhere.
I'm throwing it out there because when people disappear, wherever you are, wherever you live, like...
Bro, I remember in 2021, Cardi B put out a tweet saying that there had been, I think, 60 girls, all under the age of 17, who had gone missing in Baltimore, Maryland, and I think the Bronx. And there had been no effort, really, to investigate the disappearance of these black women. Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I just put that out there just to let everyone know. You get me? You're like, from a black, if you're black, you're valuable more than you ever knew. You get me?
Literally
like,
worth more than diamonds and gold.
See it there? You get me? So
and I think people need to understand, because we like to let people know we're not just saying this for the sake of saying this, because it's important for us all to kind of really internalize these ideas. Melanin is a carbon-based compound in your body that protects you from radiation. That's why black does not crack, and we don't age like milk or Air Force Ones on a hike. So that's one of the reasons why, is because of our melanin. It protects us from the damaging radiation that comes from the sun, or not everybody has. Not only that, as a carbon-based life form, carbon is a natural, like, that's why people use charcoal, because it naturally detoxifies as well. Melanin is also a component of melatonin, which people take in order to sleep better. So for you to have a deeper and more enriched REM sleep, they synthesize that from melanin. And finally, if you ever want to know why there's members of your family who are the same age, even though one of them is an uncle and one of them is a niece, is because one of the key components of Viagra is synthesized from melanin. And that is the reason why these black men can still make children deep into their 70s and 80s without the help of Viagra, because melanin...
Before we go there, you use the comparison of niece and uncle.
Because sometimes you have like someone and be like, that's niece, or that's my niece, or someone will be like, for example, I went to school with a girl, and her niece was the same age as her.
Right, okay,
That's what I meant to say.
I
was like, what?
I want to clear that up, you get me? Because that might have sounded like a...
How are you not the same? How is an uncle and niece the same age? Not for any weird incestuous reasons, but it's because, like, my dad, for example, has a uncle who is younger than him. And he'll say to my dad, I'm your uncle. My dad will say, stop talking. But but the reason that happens is because of the fact that black people are able to maintain their virility very late on in age. And one of the reasons they think that is because of melanin, because that's what they use to make all of the erectile dysfunction medication that is now available over the counter, or uses chemicals from melanin as well.
I wonder where to get this melanin from. Is that something you know?
Well, I can't say exactly how it's obtained, but what I do, they say that the pituitary gland is where melanin comes from, which is why ancient Egyptians...
And the pituitary gland, for the audience, is...
the pituitary gland is a gland that is between in the middle of your brain, which is like just behind your eyes and just where your spine is. But basically, it's what Egyptians, the Eye of Horus. That is supposed to be the pituitary gland and how it's shaped.
Yeah.
But that's what's supposed to secrete melanin. So
Right.
so they say they might get it from. But also, you know, a lot of black people go missing, and a lot of people are into organ harvesting. So literally protect your neck, because these lot are out here like vampires looking for your thing.
See it there.
So,
So
but look it up.
yeah, look it up still. Yeah,
Look up the applications of melanin and take care of yours.
You know what? Like, I come out of here smarter, bro. You get me? Thanks.
Anytime.
Dr. Comedian Dane Baptiste.
Who knows why? But you know, as someone who, you know, comedy, you got to do the research in it when you talk about stuff. So I will say that black don't crack, and that, you know, our Caucasian counterparts do age like Air Force Ones running from a serial killer. But if you're gonna make a statement like that, you have to be able to back it up.
You back it up.
Because one of the ways people like to, I think, talk down to black people is with false intellectualism. And there's a lot of people that try to use scientific racism to either dehumanize us as people or to justify our mistreatment as people. So it's important to kind of do the knowledge so that, you know, when they say stuff like, well, black people, why's your hair so curly? The reason why is because our hair is naturally adapted to reduce transpiration and be dehydrated through loss of water, and the curling of our hair makes a smaller surface area to make it for us to lose water. So that's why black people's hair curls, for example.
At this point, we need to superimpose or like bring in a round of applause.
Yeah,
for that fact there.
People need to know these. We need to know these things. It's like people talk about black people's noses. It's because the air is thinner in warmer climates, and so your nose is broader in order for you to inhale more air, so you can breathe a lot better. And that's why we outperform everybody in every single athletic stage ever. Because now even black brothers are winning medals in swimming. We cannot be stopped.
A man can't swim with dense bones and all kind of things.
Is what they used to say.
Yeah, for real.
And now you have champion swimmers adapting all the time. So, you know,
hear that, valuable people. You get me. Anyway, moving on. I've been on Badenoch watch.
Just been obsessed with this woman.
You know what it is? Because obviously I've been hearing a lot of things about her, and paying half attention. I thought to myself, as you know, I like to look at things first before garnering an opinion. So I did a bit of research, and then I came across an interview she'd done with Jordan Peterson, Jordan Peterson, who is a Canadian. He used to be a lecturer, but I believe he's
a professor, but I believe he may have been removed from his position just due to some of his regressive views on gender politics and some of his more questionable affiliations. Yeah,
bit radical for today.
Also, the brother said that dragons exist, innit? Like,
you know what though? It's another podcast, isn't it? Really?
I know what you're gonna say, and you know what? I feel like this is a method that a lot of these new right-wing ideologues use, where initially their narrative starts with stuff that we can all relate to and we all understand. And it's always like, this is the problem with the world. This is the problem when we do away where, you know, liberalism left to run rampant and cause problems. And we go, he's got a point there. And then once they suck you in with that, then they start saying wild stuff like, you know, well, melanin, maybe we should, maybe black people don't need all of it. And shut up, Jordan Peterson, man.
Did he actually say that?
No, but that's the kind of dumb shit he would say. But he'll also wear a suit that's got two different colours on two sides, as if he's Two-Face from Batman. Like, what's wrong with you, bro?
This is his character.
Well, this is the thing, and we should let's get into it anyway about right-wing characters and how the left lacks so many.
Kemi Badenoch, yeah.
Speaking of characters on the right wing.
For those of you who don't know, she is a black woman of Nigerian heritage. She's now British. She obtained her British passport by being born in Britain, or in an age where when you were born in Britain, you were British citizen. You gained your British citizenship straight away. But she's from Nigeria, and she is the leader of the Tory party, which is obviously on the right, because of the Tory party's ever moving political ideology. A lot of their voters have now gone further right into the reform
party,
or don't be fooled, UKIP.
Yeah,
you get me, like them man there. Anyway, if you know about that, you know about that. But Kemi Badenoch, obviously, you know, anyone who's black who attains to some sort of political power or anything, we always look to them kind of like raw, like, How you gonna help man them? You get me?
Yeah.
That's the first thing man will do, at it. Like
we think a win for we treat black people that reach positions of power the same way we treat black people who get jobs in retail stores who get a discount.
See it there.
Bring us all in, yeah.
Bring ins.
You got a job at Harvey Nicks? No, we got a job at Harvey Nicks, my G.
Sure, yeah.
Christmas is coming early.
Standard.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're thinking. Like, right, bring in. How you gonna help man them? You get me? You know, we're still waiting for our bring-ins from David Lammy, but that's a whole different story.
My goodness.
But anyway, get that to Kemi. What a disappointment. What a disappointment. So in this interview with Jordan Peterson, I'm just going to read out some notes that I took from this interview. First and foremost, I'll start with a speech that this is completely separate from the interview, but I'll just read this out anyway. This is a speech that she made at the ARC, which is the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, on February 17th. So it's not February 17th, 2025. So it's not even too long ago. To which she said this: almost half of young Brits think that the UK is racist and are not proud to be British, insinuating that it's not and that they should be. That nearly 40% of the fighting age of Brits wouldn't fight for this country under any circumstances. For obvious reasons. I mean, I would say it's more than that. I think that's quite...
I think the people that gas the most about fighting are prepared to fight the least. So...
Well, there's that too. So I just wanted to read out those sort of things because I just thought to myself, that just got my back up. I just thought, why are you talking about, like, as a black woman?
You've obviously got...
got
some of our clips indexed. Trust me,
this is a new experience.
Trust me,
you're
at PG right now. We're not even at 15 and 18 when it comes to the classification of the things that come out of Kemi's mouth.
We'll get to at least 12 by the time I finish what I'm reading here. So, as part of the interview, just to break down who this woman is, she's born in England, but brought up in she says she's born in England, but brought up in a country with a military dictatorship, doing away with this is her words, doing away with pesky liberal values like democracy because people voted in bad politicians. She says, in the 1960s, many former British colonies in Africa decided to move on from British values, preferring strongman politics and ethnic nationalism instead of democracy and pluralism. But when they got their strongman politicians, they didn't like it. This is her words, bro. This is her words.
I'm sorry, you're saying it as if I'm supposed to express outrage or surprise.
Oh,
I know Kemi Badenoch very well.
This is my first experience.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. For me, it's almost like it's kind of like,
are you reliving a nightmare?
Well, not even reliving a nightmare, but it's just interesting to watch a black person get an idea of how Kemi Badenoch thinks and speaks in the public sphere.
I'm hoping that people let me read on and then we'll unpack it. Yeah. She, in her words again, was from a relatively wealthy family while in Nigeria. But all of this, what I've just said to you about, the being part of a relatively wealthy family, being from a country where people preferred strongman politicians, all of this stuff, and she never once referred to Nigeria. Never. Never said, actually, I was born in England, but lived in Nigeria for most of my life. She referred to where she was from almost like it was an insignificant thing. Bro, I couldn't believe it until Jordan Peterson said to her, where did you actually grow up? And she was like, well, yeah, I actually grew up in Nigeria. It was almost like, in the whole, like, I've gone 25 minutes in, so you're gonna get more of this. You're gonna get more of this, bro.
I am waiting with bated breath. I can't wait to see seeing the black person learn about Kemi Badenoch. Yeah, man, I like this. You can't see it, bro, but I got popcorn and everything,
bro. Cool. Madness.
I feel like this must be what it must be like to be like a completely green white person who picks up a book to read about, and you go, tell me, how was racism really? And they have to read it for themselves.
Bro, I'm saying it because I know definitely that I speak for people in the ends that
of course
don't know who this woman is.
No.
Yeah, and probably see her on TV thinking, yeah, bam, salute. Yeah, I'm showing you. You don't know what you're saluting. Anyway, moving on. Yeah.
They have no idea.
Yeah, she doesn't really acknowledge her Nigerian heritage and only mentions it when it's directly, when she's asked directly. So she speaks to Nigeria being a military-run country when she was growing up, but nothing about the continued meddling by the British, and puts the lack of diplomacy down to tribalism. That's so she describe basically she's saying the unrest in the country is because of tribalism and nothing more. She acknowledges her academic brilliance as a child and attributes it to being from a two-parent household, the culture being around her while she was growing up, access to books, and being able to travel. So she traveled once, went to the US for a year, and yeah, being relatively wealthy as a Nigerian growing up in them times there, obviously she got access to books. But what I found funny about that was,
So, who's verified her intellect?
well, it's self verification, bro.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, she's an engineer. She's qualified and all that, bro. She went university, bro. Are you questioning her?
Yes, I am. Which university? What grade did she get? And has she applied that to any job? Because for me, if you have a proficiency that's to this high standard, why you would go and take a massive pay cut to go work as a politician, I don't know. So also, she is an engineer. I mean, she's a software engineer, not an engineer. I don't think she's a civil engineer or an aviation engineer. As far as I'm aware, her job was in IT before she became a Conservative Party member.
But this, I mean, like, she is weird as...
Yeah. That's a nice way to put it, to be honest.
Bro, she's so ingenuine. I can't believe she believes what she's saying. She's either doing that or she's not talking to us. Well, in fact, you know what? Let me take that back. She's not talking to us. She's not talking to us because she's on Jordan Peterson's show, and she's talking to a mostly white audience, trying to play up to the conservative white man that is giving her a check. And you know what I mean, her husband's obviously massively right.
He's a banking merchant. Yeah, her husband's a banking merchant, and so her outlook, her platitudes, and her narrative all serve to benefit her husband and the capitalist banker class that he is from. Kemi Badenoch is somebody who has, if she understands nothing else, she definitely understands or has definitely internalized and epitomized the system of racial and class-based discrimination in the UK that I call placism. And by that, I mean that even in this country, we tend to discriminate and create hierarchies based on class and race in the UK. And what that also means is, if you are of not of the dominant race of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants in the UK, but you want to move up to different classes, the price of that is that you will deny that this discrimination even exists. So what you find with people like Kemi Badenoch and David Lammy and James Cleverly and Rishi Sunak and Preeti Patel and Suella Braverman and the list goes on and on. What they all have in common is that they will all take their opportunity, just like Mercy Morocco as well. They'll all downplay racism because this is part of their, for lack of a better term, coonish covenant, where they say, I'll downplay racism if you let me be the one black or brown person that gets to eat something. I promise I won't share it with any other browns or blacks or ethnics. And I won't even tell them where there was food at the table. I'll be like, these guys made their own table. Why can't you make your own table? Hell, I'll eat in the kitchen, long as I get to eat a little bit too, massa. That's the whole attitude. And Kemi Maddox had a number of sound bites where, in an attempt to try and reclaim a lot of power that's been lost or siphoned off from the Reform Party and a lot of conservative voters moving further along the right towards fascism, she's dropped some real clangers. One of them being that she believes that maternity leave is way too excessive in this country. Even though the UK has the lowest time allocated for maternity leave in all of Europe. She's also said that she does not believe in any way, shape or form that Britain benefited from its colonialism. on the continent, and that people should be reminded that it was actually the British government that ended slavery. Nobody else, according to her. So basically, what I'm trying to say to you is, if you were to pull down her pants and listen close enough, her Pliny would be doing a dog whistle, because that's her entire narrative, that she dog whistles in order to appeal to, galvanize, and mobilize the most racist and most regressive aspects of Britain and the West, because she has seen how effective populist movements have been for making people who are very unqualified for their jobs appear to be very qualified. Because, as well as not being a historian very clearly, Kemi Badenoch also has no previous political experience and didn't study it. She was an engineer. She actually is also a law-breaking engineer, because she actually hacked Labour MP's account in order to...
It was her.
Yeah, to put out a fake story praising the Tories. So, you know, for all of her negation of Nigeria and her talking up of black stereotypes, you doing scams as a Nigerian on people's, doing fraud on people's things don't really help your cause, does it? But yeah, Kemi Badenoch's job is to be the black face of white supremacy.
You know what? I just don't get. I don't get it, right. This is what I don't get. I mean, this is, again, I'm new to this woman, so for me, it's very surprising and very it's like uneasing.
It's hold my beer politics. Someone says something wild about Muslims, for example, and that gets a lot of reaction, and then that lowest common denominator within British society, or that lowest racist contingent, oh, you like that, we'll vote for that, yeah. So she sees that, and they go, well, Kemi, this guy said Muslims are this, and blah, blah, blah. So she'll go, hold my beer, and I'll say, no one who does not support the state of Israel can immigrate to the UK. If somebody says, oh, you know, people just want handouts, she'll be like, we should cut benefits permanently for people who haven't tried to find work. And so all she does is, in terms of populism, whatever she hears people say on the right, or anything that generates engagement or possibly could increase a base for the right, she will take that and she will inject it with steroids in order to sound worse. Even though some of the things she says are so regressive, then even when white people go, why would you say something like that? Oh, that's terrible. And then when white people express disdain for what she says, then she tries to backpedal and dial it back, and then it will meander around what she said. So when people were like, what do you mean that maternity pay is too excessive? She'd be like, yeah, I didn't exactly say it like that. And what I meant was blah, blah, blah. But what she doesn't have really is anything tantamount to any effective policy that would benefit even the most white of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant voters in the UK. Her job only is, I believe, that her job is to be a placeholder for the Conservative Party, which is going to function whereby most true Conservatives do not want this person running the party, and so they will migrate towards the Reform Party and give them more strength, and that will become the new right-wing opposition now that Labour has moved to the left, because Labour don't care about Labour unions, Labour don't care about workers, Labour don't care about the ethnic voters that have given it its power and given it the edge over its right-wing contemporaries and, you know, the opposition. So she just goes there and she'll say stuff like, somehow the policy we had, which allows for Ukrainians to seek asylum in the UK, 6 Palestinian people managed to get here as asylum seekers, and they shouldn't. The problem is, though, she'll say something stupid and wild like that, and the head of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, will go, well, I didn't want these Palestinian people to come here and blah, blah, blah. And now you've got 2 people arguing over disposing of refugees fleeing a crisis or fleeing war, because we are at this point now where I believe economically, as a country, we're screwed. And the people that's left are idiot caretakers who are just going to watch this ship sink and just take as much money as they can. Kemi Badenoch is about a check. And as much as she talks about even being an MP itself, you know, you said about, you know, that sounds like socialism. Well, MPs are paid by taxpayer funds. And she's married to a banker, so she don't need the money. So you're happy to profit from socialism when it benefits you. But her job is that she has enough of a lack of empathy, enough of a lack of knowledge, enough of a lack of cultural and self-respect that she will say whatever her puppeteers tell her to say.
You know what it is? I think for me, it's like